don't need to read nothing, does he?
No. Alhamdulillah. نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. So inshallah ta'ala we'll try to end the hadith that we have started a few weeks back, which within this series of Al-Arba'in An-Nawawiyya, and we were discussing hadith at-Tasi' wal-Ishrun. So we're discussing the 29th hadith in this series of An-Nawawi rahimahullah, and we have mentioned, so today inshallah ta'ala that we go, so we had mentioned other things previously regarding the lesson. We did the tahreej of the hadith, and also we have discussed the hadith and different the general meaning of the hadith, and then also discuss certain things in more details. Then inshallah ta'ala today, to wrap things up, we're just going to somewhat try to discuss the fawaid, the benefits that can be taken from this hadith. So Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, that I've mentioned many benefits regarding this particular hadith, so we try to mention some of those benefits that he has used and add a few. So we won't mention everything that he mentions rahimahullah. We just mention some of the benefits that the Shaykh rahimahullah have mentioned regarding this particular hadith. So by way of fawaid of this hadith, then what I've been mentioning, he stated first regarding hirs as-sahaba radiyallahu anhum al-ilm, that of this hadith it shows the sahaba giving great importance regarding matters concerning ilm. So regarding the Sahaba, giving great importance regarding matters of ilm, and by way of them asking, so that whenever the opportunity arises, that they'll ask certain questions to gain clarity on certain matters, or to get a sense of direction regarding certain matters. So the Sahaba, that they were very keen at times to ask questions to the Prophet ﷺ, so as to get certain clarity and direction regarding certain affairs. Then also from this, they mention also that from the hadith, that you'll find that Al-Mu'adh ibn Jabal radiyallahu anhu, that also that from the hadith it shows giving ihtimam, that giving importance, so giving great importance regarding concerning that asking concerning ways of doing things of good, so righteous deeds, things that will get one close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What are those things that can be the Prophet ﷺ can instruct him to fulfill, and also things that will think actions that will avoid of an-nar, that will be if that the ways to avoid an-nar. Then they mention also of the benefit of this hadith regarding it shows, they mention ulu himma, that it shows regarding that Mu'adh ibn Jabal, that of those who kind of somewhat that add those keen interests, and also that eye aspiration, so having eye aspiration regarding certain matters, where he will ask the Prophet ﷺ certain matters regarding the dunya, that not regarding matters regarding not of matter of the dunya, but more so matters of the akhirah. So is he concentrated more regarding getting information as how to achieve al-Jannah, and also as he mentioned yubaidani and in nar, and also things that to be done so as to avoid of the nar. So he showed the Muslim that put an emphasis regarding matter of the akhirah. So the Muslim, and to sow those seeds, that the Muslim have to carry out good deeds and also avoid things which are haram. Then after things that are mentioned, that the Shaykh Hafidullah, he mentioned, Ibn Taymiyyah or Rahimahullah, he mentioned Ithbat al-Jannah wal-Nar. So from this hadith, it confirmed regarding as a part of al-Iman as-Sitt, that affirming Jannah wa an-Nar, so affirming Jannah wal-Nar. Then they mentioned regarding concern of the other points that I mentioned, that there's actions that can be done that will get that will be a means for a person to get closer to Jannah, and also there's actions that the person have to avoid so as to protect himself from an-nar. So those are the things that Mu'adh ibn Jabal, that he wanted to know. What I mentioned, bi'amal. So there's action, practical ways. So by way, akhbirni bi'amalin, inform regarding amal in general, yudkhilani al-Jannah, actions that will allow me to enter Jannah. So it shows that there's things that can be done as a means to become min al-asbab, of the means to achieve al-Jannah, and those things are done in the dunya. And so Mu'adh want to know practical means that he can achieve of Jannah by carrying out certain action, and also things that he can avoid and protect himself from an-nar. So you find that this type of request or question are asked repeated by many of the companions regarding things that the Prophet ﷺ can direct them towards, that will allow them to enter Jannah, or that they can fulfill, and it will be a means for them to achieve Al-Jannah, and also things that they should avoid. So it showed in the Prophet ﷺ that in these questions that are asked, that are answers that are given sometimes, it may vary from one person to another, so that the same answer is being repeated, but rather he will give an answer that is more suitable for that person. So he gives different Sahabi different answers based upon certain things that he believes that certain actions are more appropriate for that person, and also that which is most appropriate for another person. So that's the different way of trying to tailor-make something for a person, so that they can achieve their goal. So also it shows regarding that to the Prophet ﷺ that they mention from the Hadith that of the matter they mentioned regarding concerning the Hadith when the Prophet ﷺ, then the Prophet ﷺ, then when he went on to give an answer to this particular matter, then as for the answer that he gave concerning this matter, called Sa'alta an Azim. So the Prophet ﷺ kind of somewhat it shows regarding that what you have asked is something of it counts, of something of importance. So show that the Prophet ﷺ kind of somewhat praising Mu'adh for a question that he asked regarding where we mentioned لَقَدْ سَأَلْتَ an Azim, that you have asked about something which is of great importance. So show the Muslim that these matters regarding knowing how to achieve Jannah is important matters, that the Muslim should not be ignorant of these things. Then I mentioned فَإِنَّهُ لَيَسِيرٌ عَلَى مَنْ يَسْرَهُ اللَّهُ, that or يَسْرَهُ اللَّهُ, it becomes easy for the person to achieve these things by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala making it easy for that person. So it shows regarding concern of these things that a person still he relies upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala regarding achievement of these action and not upon himself. So al-idayah regarding guidance, that is not upon us, it goes back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then make it easy for a person to do those actions that would allow him to get closer to Jannah, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would allow that person to do actions that will allow him to enter an-nar. So for the Muslim, each actions or each that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow the person to do what will Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow the person to carry those things that will either grant him or cause him to get closer to Jannah, or vice versa. Then I mentioned the Prophet ﷺ, then he went on then to answer that question. So he shows out the Prophet ﷺ that he praised up that question. So is to at times for the Shaykh, the teacher, kind of somewhat to recognize that that question is somewhat an appropriate question that has been asked. So for the teacher at times to praise the question that is asked by the student. Then the Prophet ﷺ, he went on to answer the question, and they mentioned as for those matters that he started regarding, the first regarding of in responding to those things that he asked regarding Arkan, that he mentioned regarding Arkan al-Islam. So the Prophet ﷺ, he went on to explain the Arkan of Islam. So it shows regarding, as they mentioned, that with a question that is asked, that the Prophet ﷺ, of those things that he mentioned first regarding those things that Mu'adh should try to fulfill of action that will get him closer to Jannah, he mentioned تَعْبُدُ اللَّهِ وَلَا تُشْرِكُوا بِهِ شَيْئًا. Then it shows regarding that of those things regarding at-Tawheed, it's at the core, and it's matter number one regarding achievement of Jannah. Then the Prophet ﷺ so mentioned at-Tawheed, and then also it's up on the person avoiding of shirk. So the person wants to enter Jannah, then the person have to be mindful and understand and the matter regarding at-Tawheed and the reality of Tawheed, and that which constitute at-Tawheed regarding at-Tawheed al-Ibadah, and also at-Tawheed al-Asma wa Sifat. So of those things the person give those things its due attention. Then also he mentioned وَلَا تُشْرِكُوا بِهِ شَيْءٍ, that also of those matters that Mu'adh should avoid, that he avoid ascribing partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then he mentioned the other arkan of Islam, which is as-salah, zakat, Sawm Ramadan, and also Al-Hajj al-Bayt. So the Prophet ﷺ explained to him what is defined or referred to as Arkan al-Islam. So I show that for a Muslim, that this is of something of great importance. With the Prophet ﷺ, he started out by mentioning of those things that will allow the person to achieve Jannah and also protect him from An-Nar, is for the person to establish the Arkan of Islam, establishing the Arkan of Islam. So also, of some who have mentioned regarding when the Prophet ﷺ mentioned these matters, will be also the next matter regarding that it shows the importance of these acts or the Arkan of Islam. It shows the importance that they they are giving precedent over other things. So the Arkan of Islam regarding what the person as actions that a person can carry out, that the Arkan of Islam that they are giving precedent compared to other things. So they mentioned regarding concern of this matter with the Prophet ﷺ that he mentioned there's a point for the da'i that regarding concerning explaining Islam to others, and mentioned the good points of Islam that the person he mentioned these things. So as those things to be mentioned first and to be clarified to a non-Muslim regarding the virtue of Islam, and also inviting others to Islam is to clarify to that person regarding Arkan al-Islam. As those things are, those things are wajib upon every Muslim with his conditions. So regarding concerning for the da'i and those that not giving these matters their due attention in explaining to the people, whether by way of in da'wah, and also in matters regarding al-khutbah, and also in matters of ad-durus, and teaching the people the basic things regarding Islam. So the Prophet ﷺ, he started out those important points or the important actions that are the actions of Islam. Then it shows regarding that of the da'i that able to can in presenting Islam to others, that he start concerned to know that he mentioned those things which is after the things that are wajib before those things which is nawafil. So for the da'i, in explaining Islam to others, that he can somewhat try to explain first those things that are said to be wajib upon the person before explaining those things which is nafila, those things which is additional action. So for the da'i, you can somewhat to take note of these things. So and also for a person regarding concerning also for the Muslim, that of those things the Muslims should be taught first is the Arkan of Islam, are those Arkan of Islam. So it shows regarding concern of the most, so of those things of the wajibat of Islam is the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone, and that's concerning. So as for the da'wah and educating the people, that is to clarify the people matters relating to at-tawheed wa shirk. So clarifying to the people matters relating to what is tawheed and what this entails and the details accordingly, and also to clarify the points and shirk, what is shirk, and also the different forms and ways in which people may fall into a shirk. Then the Prophet ﷺ, then after that he can somewhat after explain those things for call, then the Prophet ﷺ, then he mentioned second, as that's the first advice or block of advice that he gave to Mu'adh. Then he mentioned the second block of advice, he mentioned ala adulluka ala abwab al-khair. Should I not direct you to the abwab al-khair, the bab of goodness? So regarding concern the ways of different of doing of things of good. So also the Prophet ﷺ can somewhat direct him towards those things that with additional things after those things that are compulsory. Regarding the Arkan of Islam, then he mentioned as-sawm junnah, as-sadaqa tudfi khatiyya, kama tudfi al-ma an-nar, was-salat al-rajul fi jawf al-layl. Then the Prophet ﷺ mentioned these things regarding, as the ulama mentioned that when they mentioned as-sawm junnah by way of, and also as-sadaqa, and also he mentioned regarding as-salat ar-rajul fi jawf al-layl, by way of these things are those additional stuff after that which is compulsory. So regarding as-sawm junnah, by those additional siyam, the sawm which is non-compulsory, also as-sadaqa which is considered to be non-compulsory, and also as-salat, the salat of the person's salat in the middle of the night. So these are like non-compulsory acts, but these are additional things that the Muslim should be involved in or try to carry out of these acts accordingly. So the Prophet ﷺ directing the person regarding different ways of doing of good. So
You're saying it started with the wajibat.
it's under the wajibat, and then those things which you said, of those things that will follow regarding nawafil. So those things of the nawafil of actions after al-wajib. So as-sawm, as I mentioned, as-sawm junnah. So additional sawm regarding that these concerned as a form of protection or shield. They mentioned regarding concerning that the ulama have mentioned that regarding what the Prophet ﷺ mentioned as-sawm junnah becomes wiqaya as a form of like shield. By way of as-sawm, it serves as a form of wiqaya, a barrier, whereas for the servant who performs siyam correctly, then it protects him regarding of things of shahawat and muharramat. So sawm as a form of wiqaya, that it serves as a way, as a means to protect that person from becoming a slave to his shahawat, and also for the person to discipline his desire, and also to discipline himself regarding avoiding those things which is haram. So the person is fasting, he avoids certain things. He abstains from certain things. So the person learns from this self-discipline and to avoid certain things. So that's then Ibn Uthaymeen rahimahullah, that he mentioned regarding what he mentioned as Sawm Junnah, that of this regarding concerning that with Siyam, he discussed like a matter regarding that in kana hadha muharram khas, where he discussed concerning the matter concerning ولكن هل المعاصي تبطل الصوم أم لا? Does acts that are said to be acts of sinful deeds, do they nullify the person Siyam? So the person, then he mentioned, so that's the question that being asked, or the matter to be looked into as a masala. Does falling into while fasting, if the person was to the person was to do some acts that are said to be ma'asi, sinful deeds, does this nullify his siyam? So the Shaykh, he mentioned as an answer, he mentioned regarding concern that if those things which is muharram, those things of ma'asi, are khas, bisawm, if they're specific to sawm, afsad as-sawm, then they nullify the person's siyam. So you find that ulama, what the Shaykh Hafidullah he meant, or rahimahullah, what he meant, that the ulama in the books of fiqh, they all discuss regarding with siyam mufsidat or mubtilat, as they refer to them as. So of certain acts, if they were done, it will invalid the person's siyam, makes the person's siyam invalid. So those acts, if the person fall into them, then the person's siyam, as they are attached to sawm directly. So the person is fasting, he abstained from what? Food, drink, intimacy. So if the person was to do of those things, then his siyam for sure is invalid. Because his siyam, it revolves around him abstaining from these things. And also that he's not allowed to, of the person, he have to eat, cannot eat within a set time. He cannot eat within a set time, or carry out those acts during a certain time. So the person, if he was to fall into any of those acts, then his siyam is invalid. So those are steps that they mention al-muharram, where these things become muharram upon a person, forbidden, khasa, specific, bis-siyam, but they're linked directly with siyam. They're linked directly with siyam. So the person wants to do off those things, his siyam, these things, then his siyam is invalid. Then they mention the next group of acts, where they mention that they think that are concerned yuhrim ala sahim. Then they mention that. Then they mention as athani yuhrim ala sa'im wa ghayru al ghiba. So he mentioned other things, such as the person, if he's fasting and he was to fall into ghiba, then his siyam is still valid, because that's not directly attached to those things that are that relates to a siyam. And those things are haram while fasting, before he started fasting, and will continue after fasting. So the mention of ghiba, or a person lying, stealing, and the likes, these things that are considered to be ma'asi, but they do not invalidate the person. They do not invalidate the person's siyam.
Sheikh, you said intimacy.
Aye.
You mean full or just bits and anything?
With intimacy concerning full. So the person understand. So with intimacy will be direct penetration. So if penetration occurs, then that none of the person. So a person might find a case of a person regarding intimacy, that he could be married and had intimacy with his wife, so which is ordinarily halal, but in case while fasting becomes haram, so his fast is deemed to be invalid and has its own rules. Then in the next case, where a person that is fasting and he have a relationship with someone that he's not married with. Then again, concerning that, in that case, concerning the person siyam, in that case it is broken, and also he have done also another sin. So in that case, his siyam will be invalid, and also the person have done another sin, which is having relations with a person that he is not married with, zina. Clear? So that becomes two sin. That becomes like two sin, but it's intimacy, but it goes on different levels. It goes on different levels. But then you have other general sins, which said, of things of al-ghiba, namima, carrying of tales, backbiting, lying, even a person cursing, swearing. The person, for example, the person was to stab someone, then that doesn't invalidate the person's siyam, but he has done something haram. But his siyam is still valid. His siyam is still valid. The person is fasting, but he's stealing. He's picking pockets. He's selling drugs. So all these acts are considered to be haram, but and he has done something which is haram and makes his siyam somewhat, the reward in his siyam will, that is the reward would diminish, but he has done what is still required, which is he completed his sawm that day. But he has done a sin. He has done a sin. So that's concerning what the Shaykh Hafidullah, or what is intended, inshallah ta'ala. So then he mentioned regarding concerning that the next of those things regarding as-sadaqah. So it shows regarding the importance of sawm and the benefit of sawm. And also second, he mentioned regarding as-sadaqah as another point that he mentioned, that regarding concern of the benefit of sadaqah. So it shows that Islam encouraged regarding as-sadaqah. So the person giving sadaqah, and why? Because sadaqah, it can somewhat, it helps to expiate the person's shortcomings or sins. So he mentioned as-sadaqah tudfi al-khatiyya, that sadaqah, it undo those things that are the person's shortcomings or wrongdoings, kama yudfi al-ma an-nar, just as water, it outs fire. So it shows regarding that sadaqah, it is something which is highly encouraged to be done, especially concerning the person giving a sadaqah, that also it helps to expiate the person's sin. That sadaqah, it also expiates of one's sins. As I mentioned, the hadith regarding as-sab'a, regarding concerning those seven on the shade of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where it mentioned rajul tasaddaq bi sadaqatin, that a person will give in charity, فأخفاها حتى لا تعلم شماله ما تنفق يمينه, that the person, that one of his hands doesn't know what the other is doing. So it shows regarding that, so it shows the importance regarding that as-sadaqah, it is something which is highly encouraged. Then also the Shaykh mentioned of this husn ta'lim, that the Prophet regarding his method of how he teach people, that he has a very good method of how to teach people. So the Prophet he displayed this by showing off his method, where he mentioned that a question was asked regarding a certain matter, and the Prophet gave somewhat the answer and more. Answer the question and also give additional information. So that's concerned. So is a person knowing how to use that method, how to use that method. Where said a question is asked, then the person should try to answer the question that is asked directly. And if there's anything additional the person may want to clarify around that topic, then it will come after. So is the Prophet ﷺ that he answered the question and also gave additional information regarding related to what was being asked. So that's concerning of those ways of teaching of others, and also the ways of the companion, the Prophet ﷺ teaching by way of question and answers. Su'al wal ijaba, where a question will be asked and then the answer would be given. So you find different method. And also the Prophet ﷺ at times, he would teach people by just sitting and teaching the people. So you find different method, that a different approach regarding how to educate the people that were used. So for the da'i, that also tried those different methods of how to educate of the people, and also using a time a form of qiyas, where he mentioned regarding regarding concerning tudfi al-khatiya. That regarding that, just as I mentioned, kama yudfi al-ma an-nar. So kind of somewhat making similarities between certain things. So making that type of comparison. So that's kind of somewhat to make it kind of somewhat to bring the message closer to the mind of the person. So different method being used regarding how to teach the people. So it's the da'i also to use different method accordingly. Also from the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ that encouraged regarding as-salah, qiyamul layl. As he mentioned, salatul rajul fi jawful layl. So also he showed the importance regarding or the encouragement regarding as-salat fil layl. Salat fil layl, which is in the middle of the night. Then also the Prophet ﷺ mentioned thumma tala. Then the Prophet ﷺ then he read some ayah. They mention here regarding concerning the Prophet ﷺ mentioning his point and then mentioned dalil by way of the Quran. So the Prophet ﷺ using the Quran as a form of dalil. Using the Quran as a form of dalil. So sure the ulama have mentioned regarding concerning that, so that's also the person, things being mentioned and the person tried to link it with some form of dalil. So if the person answering something, giving an answer, especially concerning those people giving fatwa and the likes, then try to link their response with some form of evidence from the Quran or from the Sunnah. So the Prophet ﷺ kind of somewhat follow this method of giving an answer, but also giving a source of a form of dalil regarding his answer, for his answer. And also if you can link the question with that says that even concerning mention of dalil, that also the person maybe can make that link between what is being said as the fatwa and also the evidence that is used, that the link can be made. So that, as I mentioned, so the person the person has to be clear regarding the link, or the person understand that link between what is being said and also the dalil that is being used. Then also from this that then the Prophet ﷺ, then he went on to discuss concerning of those next matter, and then he mentioned the next matter regarding ألا أخبرك برأس الأمر وعمودي. Then the Prophet ﷺ would mention والذرة الذرة أو ذرة. So it can be ذرة or ذرة sanami. Then he mentioned concerning the peak of thing, which is like the peak of things. Regarding the mention, as for those peak, then he mentioned regarding that, then he mentioned Bala ya Rasulullah. Then he might yes. So that's I want more information. The Prophet ﷺ, do you want me to kind of somewhat give you more information about other matters? So first, seeking of permission from Mu'adh and those present regarding, there's more information that I can give. Do you want this additional information? Then he mentioned Bala, given like saying yes, we want for you to increase in information. So that so it shows regarding that at times you might find certain students that that they have that type of motivation that they can take more information, they can take as much information can be given. So students also on different levels. So but in this case the Prophet ﷺ at times that in this case concerned like asking, and then I mentioned give more information. Then Mu'adh, he says yes, continue giving more information. So it showed that kind of somewhat that love for ilm and wanted more information. So it showed that type of love for ilm where Mu'adh ibn Jabal, that he wanted as much information as possible because he has a goal that he wants to achieve, which is entering Jannah and to distance himself from an-nar. So whatever information that can be given for him to achieve this, then is willing to accept this so as to then to act upon this. So also then I mentioned Bala, then Fakal Ra's al-Amr al-Islam, then the Prophet mentions as for the matter, the cream of the matter, it is Islam, the pillar of it, which is umudu, concern that of Islam is as-salah. That I mention dhurra or dhirra, sanami, al-jihad. So somewhat he mentioned regarding concerning of those things that he mentioned that emphasizing these three matters regarding al-Islam being the peak of everything and the main source of all things. Then also link to this is the umud, which is the pillars, which is as-salah. Then also the pinnacle of things, which is a jihad. So like the pinnacle regarding concern that level of sacrifice, which is a jihad fi sabilillah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he mentioned as for umud that the pillar of this matter is salat. Then a discussion, as we know, that of the qadim wal haditha, of something of the past and present between the ulama regarding, they mentioned that that Ibn Taymiyyah rahimullah, that he mentioned that the Prophet mentioned umud, that is like salat is the pillar, is the salat, that meaning concerned to that salat, this Islam, it is built upon salat. Salat is one of his pillars. One of the pillars that this Islam is built upon is salah. Then they mentioned that so it means concerned man taraka. So they mentioned that if this umud, this pillar, saqat, if it is not present, then the building falls, crumbles. So based upon this, the ulama by mentioned that by extension that the building will not stand firm if those pillars are not in place. And of those pillars is salah. So from that discussion, he kind of somewhat mentioned وهذا where they mentioned وأن من ترك الصلاة فهو كافر, that the one who leaves salat is a disbeliever. From what he mentioned, that salat is one of the pillars. So by this you have that discussion between the ulama of past and still of present regarding the one who leaves salah. So you have an area that they agree upon regarding tarik salat, and also an area that they disagree upon. So the part that is ijma between the ulama, that the person who leaves salat by denial of salat, that is a part of Islam, then that person is a Muslim. So the person who deny that salat is wajib and must to be done, then that person is not a Muslim. And rejects salat, then that person is not a Muslim. Then the area that they discuss between the ulama, that the person who leaves salat, so the person who leaves salat they mention, and the person who leaves salat amdan. So the person who says, I am not praying at all. He intentionally decide that I not praying at all, either because he doesn't see that something that's wajib upon him. So the person, he leaves salat. So intentionally leaving salah. Then I mention the next case, which is the case in our discussion between the ulama, the one who leaves salat takasulan or tahawan, the one who leaves salat out of laziness, and somewhat being neglectful, where in that person, I mean concerned that person believes salat is wajib upon them and is a part of Islam. But because of maybe their own situation and circumstance, they are not per se keeping upon their salat as they should. So they're not praying. So that person, so in that cases, you have case where they discuss concerning the person who not praying at all, but he believes that to be wajib. But you understand? But he gives himself these excuse. But he's not praying at all. Then we said no, of those who all constantly have that discussion, then you have also those who mention, so the person that is praying some of the salat, but not all the salat. But so the person might pray, so he's praying some of the salat, he's not complete in that case, he has not abandoned salat completely. He have not left salat completely. So he's praying some and not praying others. So my friends, the Muslim that will Juma, they are on it. But the 5 times salat during the day, they are lit. You understand? They'll pray, not pray, but Juma, they're there. Then you have a next set that whether 5 or Juma, they're not there. And you might find some, the only one they know is Eid. So would all those be classed in the same category regarding them not, the fact that they're not praying the 5 times daily salat, or they're not Muslim? So you have that discussion. So the ulama mentioned that the person that, the fact that he's not praying what is required, which is the khamsa salawat, the 5 salat in a day and night, then if he's not consistent on those, then you have left Islam, even by leaving 1 salat, with some of the ulama. So that discussion is a lengthy discussion between the ulama that goes in detail, but kind of somewhat for us it shows that the matter concerns that the matter is a matter that is a very serious matter regarding not praying. Is a very serious matter, at least for us, whatever position a person might take. So in this matter, rather than a person make taqleed of this person or that person, then if a person even can read for himself what is mentioned by the ulama, then that's best. As to what the discussion is. Or if the person unable to go back to what is mentioned by the ulama with the evidence and what goes back and forth, then if the person wants a detail on those matters, sit the person talk with them and they can discuss what is mentioned in the books of the ulama. Regarding those matters, the person can understand what have been put forward by the ulama regarding this matter, why some have come to this conclusion and why others have come to this conclusion, and see where things go from there. But the person is somewhat in these matters, that is to study this matter. As we mentioned, if he's able to make that research on his own or books of that, then he do so. And if the person unable, then he sit with someone who can go through with him with that matter in detail. So I said our discussion is general, but for us kind of somewhat of an insight as to the discussion. So not to come to a final, not to come to a final conclusion. That's a different discussion. Then after the thing that he discusses concerning with jihad, as he mentioned, jihad also of those things of importance that the Prophet ﷺ he mentioned regarding al-jihad, dhurra or zirwat sinam al-Islam. So they mentioned regarding concerning so jihad, that being discussed concerning a jihad, either bil qital, fighting, or jihad bil qawl. So jihad is of the one concerning most of the texts that discuss Islamic texts that mention about jihad is regarding jihad al-qital, al-kuffar. But also at times jihad also by way of bil qawl. So bil qawl. So in the general text regarding concerning jihad is regarding matter relating al-qital, and also jihad by way of so bil fi'l or bil qawl, with actions or with speech. So jihad with fi'l, as we mentioned, qital is fighting the enemies of Islam to make the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala triumphant. So as the Prophet ﷺ mentioned regarding concerning the hadith, فقال عليه السلام, regarding concerning that person that سئل عن رجل يقاتل حمية out of asabiyya. So a person that is fighting hamiyatan out of asabiyya, then he mentioned maybe because of his tribe or of those matters, partisan for a particular reason, party. I mentioned yaqatil shuja'an, and a person who is fighting because he wants to show that he's brave or to be referred to as brave, that he can wrestle and fight very well. So this person fighting because he wants to be seen that he's a person who is brave. Then it mentioned waqal yara makanu, or a person wants to fight because he wants to, there's a mechanic wants to be praised by others. He do it out of riyah. So you want the people, so you do it out of to show to the people that he's brave and he's a fighter. So the person, they are fighting for these reasons. فَقَالَ أَيُّ ذَلِكَ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. So the people ask, with all these cases that we have given to you, which of these is jihad in its true sense? Where they mention أَيُّ ذَلِكَ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. Which of these, with the example that they give, kind of somewhat to give some examples, so it is, I said, real as to what is being discussed and the different reason behind that a person might fight. That they mention, then the Prophet ﷺ فقال at the end concerning من قاتل لتكون كلمة الله هي العليا فهو في سبيل الله. So the Prophet ﷺ give a very comprehensive, clear cut regarding that the one who fight to make the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the one which is triumphant, then that is fi sabilillah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that so that's concerning, so that's the scale that is used to measure what's the purpose and the true intent regarding that fight. So we said that concerning jihad bil fi'l by way of qital al-kuffar, then we have a jihad bil qawl. So that concerns with al-qalam wal qawl, then a jihad by the person by way of by speech or by writing. So by way of kind of somewhat by trying to defend the defense of Islam and the spread of Islam by way of writing or by way of teaching, or giving dawah. So those ones that are said to be, and so even for the person that died and to know if this is jihad fi sabilillah in trying to convey the message of Islam to others, then a person is clear regarding, as I mentioned, then go back to the same thing. أن تكون كلمة الله عليا, as I mentioned, أن تكون كلمة الله هي العليا فهو في سبيل الله. Then this is for in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even the person that die, what are you calling to? To yourself, to your party, to your country, to your tribe? So that's dawah that you're saying it is for Islam. What's the true intent behind it? To say I'm a da'i, I can face the kuffar and say anything I want about here and challenge them in public. So the same thing go back to even a person who's da'i and a person who's calling to Islam, that the same scale concern it, no? Man qatil litakuna kalimatullah, so the man jahid litakuna kalimatullah hiya al-ulya fahuwa fi sabilillah. So the same thing apply. And said, no, at times, he says that a person, at times you can maybe sieve out cases, we can tell us, no, there's something that needs to be looked into further regarding that person who's fighting and that person is calling, because he's not calling in reality to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala everything about him or his group or his masjid or his, so everything that he always come back to something else other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's concerning indicators that maybe that person need to revisit regarding whatever they're involved in. Then also, the Shaykh he mentioned also of those benefits that can be taken, which is after mentioned, and the Prophet also mentioned regarding Allah ukhbirak bimilak dhalik kullu, which is concerning our kulli, which is regarding hifzul lisan. So the Prophet then he mentioned regarding of those things, when he mentioned kuf alayka hadha. So he's talking to Mu'adh ibn Jabal radhiyallahu anhu regarding, so the Prophet mentioned kuf alayka hadha, and he meant al-lisan. So for the person somewhat to be mindful regarding his tongue and the danger of the tongue. So Sheikh they mentioned concerning khusurat al-lisan, that a person have to be Muslim, have to be mindful regarding that the gravity of his tongue. So it at times could be to his benefit, and at times it could be to his danger, his own danger and harm. So for a Muslim, can sound to know concerning the khuturat al-lisan, that he has to know there's an accountability regarding the things that he says. There's accountability regarding things that he says. So of things that may be said that might bring about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's wrath upon him, or things that he may say that will bring him close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the person has to somewhat be mindful regarding the use of his tongue. So for the Muslim, I mentioned that as for this case concerned that kuf, that the person that to take control of his tongue by way of mindful of the thing that he says, at times mindful the way that he word things. So when to speak, when not to speak, and when to speak, how to speak. So all those things the person has to take into consideration. So the person known considers the person have control regarding when to speak, when not to speak, and sometimes maybe not appropriate to speak, and times that appropriate the person must speak and should speak up. And also if the person needs to speak, then the person also has to think about how those things are said. So that's concern of those things that one have to be mindful of. So the Shaykh he mentioned regarding concern of those things regarding the thing that to be mindful regarding our tongue, that of the things that are praiseworthy regarding the tongue and how it is used. So the person who called to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, teach of Islam. So those things are praiseworthy. The person also at dhikr, qira'atul Quran. So the tongue being used in those ways are praiseworthy. Then also you have other ways that the tongue may be used and also become blameworthy. So the person concerned of those cases of blameworthy that will add that he mentioned, Sheikh mentioned like al-ghiba, that's blameworthy. So people sit and talk about other people or carry tales. So those type of things are ghiba and haram, talking behind people's back. So those majalis, the person, if you can sit in those are the afat al-lisan. Then he mentioned of those things, the afat of the shortcomings of the tongue and the evil of the tongue, al-kadhib, the person. So you have ghiba wa namima. He mentioned al-kadhib, as-sab, the person who likes to abuse and curse out other people. So those are things that are, the person has tried to avoid those things regarding his tongue. Then also of those things can be added regarding the use of the tongue that can be even more dangerous regarding concern, which is even more severe than what we mentioned. Of those things, of those, so of those things that I mentioned, so of those things we can add regarding concerning, regarding the tongue, as-salat hunak. So of the evil of the tongue that are more severe regarding the tongue, Al-Qawl al-Allah bila ilm. You understand? A person attributing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala things out of ignorance. So meaning concern a person speaking about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala deen with ignorance. Naam, so that's some sort of those things which is the more severe case, a person attributing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala things that Allah that out of ignorance. Also of those narration, a person also regarding of those things which fall under qawl, that are dangerous, khuturat al-lisan, that matter relating to the person narrating hadith al-mawdu' wa da'if jiddan and the likes. So the person not very careful regarding the things that he attribute to the Prophet ﷺ. So mention anything that comes. So we're in this month of, for example, we're in this month of what? Islamic month? Rajab. So the month of Rajab, you have different things that takes place. So each month, you understand, you have some ulama have written Ibn Rajab regarding each month and what of the virtue of each month. So you find out Rajab, some months have certain things which is well established virtues. But in a month of Rajab, what's the virtue of Rajab? Other than being of the Ashhur al-Hurum, other than being of the sacred months. So is there anything, any specific act or actions that are encouraged in the month of Rajab? Anything additional to be done in the month of Rajab that's meant to be praiseworthy. So the ulama mentioned that in reality there's no authentic hadith on this matter regarding any special siyam in the month of Rajab. So the person in the month of Rajab, he just fasts ordinarily. So there's nothing anything specific regarding fasting in the month of Rajab. That comes something which is additional to what would ordinarily be done. Then also, so there's no hadith on that. That is authentic regarding as-siyam. Also, that as-salat. Is there any particular salat regarding the month of Rajab? You have different things that people somewhat are involved in, that are practiced by some today, So there's some people regarding that the first night of Jummah, that they'll have certain salat that they will do. So you have what they call salat al-raghaib. So like between Maghrib and Isha, you have to pray Ithna Ashar Rakah, you have to pray 12 Rakah. And in each Rakah, you recite a particular Fatiha and a particular thing. Either repeatedly. But you have a set way in which that salat is to be done. That they specify as to in the first Rakah, after Fatiha, what to be said, the second, So you have these things that are supposed to be done in this particular salat. But that salat, it has no basis. But it's done. Or some mention between Maghrib and Isha, on certain day, that you have to do 20 rakah. So you have these additional things that I mentioned, but there's no hadith that are authentic on this matter. All the hadith are da'if. Also they mention regarding of Rajab, a certain days to go to make the visit to the graveyard. So you're visiting at the graveyard in Rajab, a particular day or evening for the person to visit the graveyard. So I said those things have no basis. Or they mentioned that with some, they believe that in the month of Rajab, that was the time of Isra wal Mi'raj. So Isra wal Mi'raj was done in the month of Rajab. So that they become for them ihtifal, a form of type of day of celebration. So they will gather and whatever they do on that particular day, but you have these things that are done in this month of Rajab. And Ibn Hajar rahimahullah have written a book and others that can someone clarify there's no hadith regarding nothing special regarding the month of Rajab. So that's concerning those matters. Then, so said I mentioned that's not a hadith, a person being mindful concerning the use of hadith. Then also regarding those matters regarding that of concern that are dangerous in speech, which is concerned that which is considered people who du'at ila al-bidah. Du'at ila al-bidah. Those people call the people to bidah. Wal khurafat. So those people who are callers to bidah, then that also becomes something which is very, you understand, a person is very severe for the person inviting people to bid'ah. So it should concern a Muslim that thing that he's going to invite others to, that he can somewhat check that information, that it actually represent Islam or a part of Islam. And if it is not, then he does not call people to that thing. So it shows regarding verifying and checking things thoroughly. So that's concerning of those things that, so regarding al-bid'ah or shirk and of those practice, and also of those things that people invite people to ma'asi. So people invite people, especially in this time that we have today with social media, and you understand those different platforms, are people writing things on, what is it, X? You write on X, or you, whatever they do on X, you understand that a person that even mentioned that even hadith, that people that sometimes they will share them. You understand? You verify. Someone might send it to you, but before you pass it to a next person, you need to check it. The person who passes you understand, that's on them, what they did. But for you now to share it to someone else, then you become responsible for your action now, regarding the next step that you take. So if you don't trust the hadith from a reliable source, then you shouldn't pass it. Or if you haven't verified, don't pass it and do not share it until you have verified it is authentic. And also you find that so verifying the information is important, crucial, regarding that the person doesn't understand attribute to Islam things that Islam is free from. Ayakum Allah. Then they mention also the Prophet ﷺ that he mentioned regarding concerning ta'aleem bil qawl wal fi'l. The Prophet ﷺ also let know that he teaching people by way of times different method, at times with speech and also times of teaching people by way of the person action. So sometimes teaching the person has not actually verbally say things, verbal instructions, and also at times of teaching is by way of the person, he hasn't said anything, but by his actions. By his action. So the Prophet ﷺ kind of somewhat taught different ways and method. So it means, so that's concerning the general thing regarding that this particular hadith that have been mentioned here, and also it shows regarding an-nar, that's something, the reality of an-nar, that of people would be dragged on their face in the hellfire. So an-nar is something which is real, as we had mentioned, that al-jannah wa nar, that they are both real. So there's actions that if done can bring a person closer to Jannah, and there's actions if done can bring the person also close to an-nar and away from Jannah, and vice versa. So that inshallah ta'ala, we now come to an end with of the main points that can be taken so of those points that he mentioned and others. So inshallah ta'ala, we'll now come to a conclusion regarding this particular hadith, which is hadith 29. So inshallah ta'ala, in the next lesson that we'll be going to, we'll be covering or studying hadith that comes out of hadith ثلاثون, hadith al-thalathun. So inshallah ta'ala, that will be our next session inshallah ta'ala. So I said that this one kind of somewhat took around 3 sessions. This particular hadith took around 3 sessions, but inshallah ta'ala, I would say to know that, and that's still somewhat shortening certain things. There's still kind of somewhat shortening of certain things, but inshallah ta'ala, we'll cover the next hadith inshallah ta'ala in the coming week. وَبِاللَّهِ ta'ala tawfiq wa hadi ila sabil. Ay?
If a person wakes up in the morning, or they went to sleep the following night, because obviously there's difference of when you make the intention, right? So say the person made the intention before they went to bed, before they went to sleep, they want to fast tomorrow.
Okay.
They wake up in the morning, and before the time of fasting enters, before the day they have intimacy with this, they have to make a new intention before they stop fasting that day?
No.
Good question.
Huh?
Repeat the question.
Yes, so the question regarding concern, the question has been asked that a person made an intention to fast the coming day. Now, a compulsory fast. Then when a person goes, so before they went to sleep that day, made the intention to fast the coming day. Then before the time of fasting starts, they wake up a little bit early and they had intimacy with their wife. Now, does the person need to redo their intention? No. So anything that so the person, for example, the person before that had the intention to fast the next day, that's the main thing. As for whatever he does up until that time as action, whether he wants to sleep, he wants to, during that time, get up in the morning of intimacy, he wants to eat, he doesn't have to renew intention with all those acts. He doesn't need to renew his intention. So those acts wouldn't, says no, that because he did those acts, then he need to redo his intention. No, those things it doesn't require this. Even the matter that
The one that miss suhoor, that miss maybe you wake up 10 o'clock, for example. Is he according to fast that day, or be like, if I don't eat, I don't think I can fast?
No, the compulsory fast, the person have to fast. The compulsory fast, the person that compulsory fast. You understand? The person that believes that I can't, then that's not good enough. The person have to fast because the fast is his wajib. So if he missed suhoor, and he got up, then he just fast, go straight into his fasting.
Okay. Sheikh, if a man is intimate with his wife and Adhan for Fajr comes, what should the man do? Should he stop completely?
So the person having intimacy with his wife, and then the time for that, then a person have to stop. If he goes over the time, then he has fallen into a grave error. Then he falls in a great error.
It's not like when you're eating food, you can stretch it a little bit. Or like when you're eating your suhoor, like if you've had your food beforehand, you don't put the food away, isn't it, and put it away, right? If I'm correct.
We're going to some fiqh, so said the lesson said that when next couple of weeks in Ramadan, before Ramadan, we have those discussion. You understand? We have those discussion. But we said, so we have the discussion regarding those masail that relates to Ramadan in the next month or so, inshallah, before Ramadan. Bi-idhnillahi ta'ala.
You mentioned we should be careful in how we share hadith. We have to verify ourselves. So how do we check the validity of hadith by ourselves? And can you give us like an example of what resource we can use?
Then so you have some, you have resources that are there. You find that some of the ulama, so I said, depending on personal ability, that you have either online, you have these like websites, that can help you to verify that, who of the ulama, who have their judgment on how they agree on the hadith. So you have a website that you can go back to, right? Or books. Or if the person said, or maybe you might know a particular individual who may have that knowledge that they can maybe verify the information for you and then give you the information back. So the person says either person can do it on their own, but we have gone back to certain sources or certain website that they pay attention to those things. I'll try to give the ruling of the ulama on certain hadith. Then you have another way the person has the ability that you can read Arabic books. Like go back to the old books of the ulama of hadith. So you have books, for example, Sheikh Albani, you have Arnaut, you have Ibn Hajar, you have the ulama who can somewhat give attention to those matters. Then also, if the person is unable, then at least that the person, if you know someone who is proficient in that field, or have some knowledge of that field, like maybe a talib al-ilm, they can ask him regarding, can you verify this hadith on my behalf? And you send him the hadith and he'll get back to you at some point. So especially consider hadith that are outside Bukhari and Muslim. Hadith especially that are outside Bukhari and Muslim, and they're not, especially hadith, they're not in the well-known books. You understand? So you have Bukhari, Muslim, Abu Dawood, Tirmidhi, Nasa'i, Ibn Majah, Muwatta, Musnad Ahmed. You understand? Outside those things, as a general, you understand? Then just check if it's outside those things. Even the ones that are inside that needs to be checked. Anything even outside needs to be double checked. So that inshallah ta'ala will end for today and continue next week. Wabillahi ta'ala tawfiq.
Would the same for statements of the Sahabas and statements of the Atba' al-Tabi'een?
if there's like a rule, if there's judgment passed, if they come with ahkam sharia, then it should be verified. You understand? So if it's a thing that relates to rulings that can be taken from their statements, or you understand, or matters of the unseen, you understand, then those things should be checked. Those things should be checked.